Good morning. The Toronto Batmen have already booked their ticket on Championship Sunday for the gold medal final. Who will join them? We're about to determine that over the next two games. And the team on the field that knows all about winning is in the first one. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Softball City in Surrey. My name is Peter Loubardias, alongside the gentleman I refer to as the voice of men's fast pitch in North America, Blair Setford. And Blair, yesterday a unique one for the Galway Hitmen, the three-time defending champions. They were upended by Bear Creek in their first 1-2 crossover game. They did come back to beat Nova Scotia, and now they take on a team that would appear to be peaking at the right time in the host Sook Loggers as you get a look at the Galway Hitmen defensive lineup. And for a third consecutive game, it's the longtime ace of the Team Canada staff, Sean Cleary. And we remarked, and I think fairly, last night, we were a tad surprised he stayed in that game for the entire time.
It is a marathon that either of these teams are going to have to go through today. And for Galway to get to the championship game, Peter, it really is about taking things one inning at a time, try to win the inning. For the Sook Loggers, get up on Sean Cleary early. Matthew Waugh knows that. So does Chris Walushka, Blake Hunter, Brian Avery, Derek Mason, all of the guys that play with him on Team Canada. They know that if you can get to Sean early, that is your best opportunity to win the game.
Sean did not necessarily have a typical Sean day. Still hasn't quite, I don't think, found his A performance, which is A++ when he's on the top of his game. And I really do. I haven't had a chance to ask anybody about it, but I really feel like one of the reasons he may have stayed in was just he wasn't comfortable enough with how he was throwing.
I think there is a comfort level that needs to be found, absolutely. I also think that maybe for Sean right now, there's also something to prove. Did not finish the World Tournament Championship a couple of weeks ago in Wisconsin, and there are still some lingering questions about that. So maybe he's on a personal mission here today to make a statement that that was an anomaly.
And I think it's a terrific point, because you were the first to mention yesterday that even some of the reactions were not typical. Matthew Waugh leading it off, his longtime teammate, who helped Galway win this championship 1 year ago in St. John's, Newfoundland. He's 6 for 24 in this tournament. The 34-year-old from St. Gervais, Quebec, a longtime member of Canada's national team. And Blair, remember, for the Sook Loggers, this is must-win game number 5 in a row.
Yeah, it's been playoff time for them since Friday morning.
They started 0-3 as this is fouled straight back. Right towards the Newfoundland and Labrador flag. Is Galway in a position where, to retain the crown, they will have to win 3 consecutive games here today. And that is no easy chore, even when you have their incredible pedigree. Winners of 8 of the last 9 Canadian championships that have been played. Cleary has worked his way back in the count from 3 balls down. And Matthew Waugh draws a leadoff walk to start the game. Brings to the plate the veteran Chris Walushka. And Chris has been impressive this week. 6 for 27. He has 2 triples and 2 runs batted in.
And Peter, we've done a lot of the Sook games as they were in the prime host spot. Last feature game of the evening, so we've seen this team a fair bit. We both know, and we both remarked this, that they could have been 3-0 through their first 3 games, but we're actually 0-3. And it's been playoff time since Friday morning. But the guys like Matthew Waugh looked like he was rounding into form yesterday, had a couple of big key hits. Chris Walushka had some key hits. The middle of their lineup with Hunter, Avery, Mason, those guys were hitting the ball when they needed to yesterday.
Well, the top 5 in this lineup, and the fact that Kyle Cowick has had such a good week, who's in the 6th spot, as Walushka upset at himself that he wasn't able to execute the sacrifice bunt. You could make a case, Blair, that the 6 1 through might be as dangerous when at the top of their games as any lineup here.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. I mean, out of those 6, it was Kyle Cowick who made the all-tournament team to represent Sook on that all-tournament team. So they're getting that production now when it matters the most. And Brady Woods was very impressive yesterday through 11 innings. A 7-inning complete game, 5-0 win over the Saskatoon Angels. Went the first, and basically it was back-to-back. They came off of Diamond 3 behind us, came over here, and he just went right out to the board and pitched another 4 innings against Niagara. They scored 2 in the top of the first, and he and Derek Mason made that stand up the rest of the way.
Well, pitching was the one area that many who are around this game on a very regular basis were somewhat wondering about. And Brady Woods, the 36-year-old, has really delivered and had a marvelous 2 playoff games yesterday, beating Saskatoon in that first game, and then in the contest against Niagara, as Sean Cleary has his first strikeout of the morning as he gets Chris Walushka on the rise ball.
And that didn't look like the full throttle rise ball from Cleary either. I think that may have been the 80% one where he just took a little bit off of it and just kept it away from Chris Walushka up on the outer part of the zone.
Now, if Sook continues the run that they are on, they've won 4 in a row, all must-wins. Do not be surprised if this gentleman is a big part of the day, and that is Blake Hunter, the 36-year-old from Nanaimo, British Columbia. Played for Canada at the 2017 and 2019 World Championships, now known as the World Cup.
Peter, when I look at Blake's stats through the week, only 1 hit up till Friday. Yesterday, 2 hits in the first game, 2 hits in the second game.
That's why I thought as the tournament wore on, this was a dangerous group because their best people hadn't quite found their way. But when you're as good as the people that they have, as experienced, all the world championships and big events that they've played in, you know it's only so long that they generally will be held down. And that was kind of evident in their run to get to this tournament's Final Four, which is how many teams are left in contention. And a great pitch by Cleary. Almost unhittable. In on the hands. And Sean has back-to-back strikeouts after giving up the leadoff walk to Matthew Waugh. Brian Avery, 9 for 21 now in this event. And he's driven in a team-leading 8 runs. And there is not anything this gentleman has not won or accomplished in the sport. World champion, Pan American gold medalist. Won a Canadian championship with the Vancouver Grey Sox in 2007. That's a bit of an inside joke on myself. Been a fabulous player for a long time. And dealing with a guy he knows very well. They have played together in many, many events.
Not only have they played together in many events, but you go back to the Pan Am qualifier in Paraná in April of 2022. Brian Avery caught that event. Ryan Boland did not make the trip. Avery caught for Sean Cleary throughout that event. So now he knows what Sean's got. What he has to deal with mentally is what is Ryan Boland calling.
Well, he has a good hitter's count. And Cleary misses, and out comes the skipper. 3 balls and no strikes.
That's home plate umpire Justin Van Horn from Ontario. Out at first, it's morning still, I guess. Lucas Crosby from BC, Dennis Roth from Ontario, and also Dave Harrington from Ontario at third.
1 on, 2 out. First of 3 elimination games today to decide a Canadian champion. Cleary finds the strike zone. This group has been a fascinating case study in about the last 20 hours, talking about Galway. Nothing going quite the way they'd like it to, although no damage done, but a very tough hitter to deal with here.
We talked about this earlier in the week. Brian Avery there, Peter, shows a real keen veteran's batter's eye. It would be very easy to chase that pitch off the outside corner, trying to make something happen here in the first, but content to take the walk, to pass the torch to the next guy in line and have Derek Mason come to the plate with 2 batters aboard. That's the difference between a national team player and somebody who aspires to, but hasn't quite got there yet.
Mason 5 for 19. The 38-year-old. Went around for a strike. Cleary with 2 strikeouts and 2 walks. That's the story in the top half of the first inning. Derek Mason had 8 runs batted in for Canada in a silver medal winning effort in New Zealand in late November and early December. Included 3 home runs. And showed good patience to stay off the rise ball.
Mason had 3 hits yesterday across the 2 games. Picked up 2 RBIs, in fact, both the RBIs in the win over Niagara in the second game. He had a double in this exact situation.
Up to 6 runs batted in for the championship is Derek Mason trying to give the host Sook Loggers an early lead against the defending champs. They still wear the belt. Will they at the end of the day? And the road is not an easy one, having to win 3 consecutive games against quality opponents. The Toronto Batmen in the driver's seat. They have been perfect record-wise. Ty Sebastian might be at a level that he's never been at. Both in the circle and at home plate. And they will play in the title game. That we know. And we know that Bear Creek, the Express, will face the winner of this game next. The 2-1 on its way to Derek Mason. And he pops it a mile in the air. Shane Boland takes charge, and Sean Cleary works his way out of a jam in the top of the first. The Galway Hitmen coming to bat in the bottom of the first on Championship Sunday at the Canadian Senior Men's Softball Championship. Warm as yesterday on this Sunday, as the workhorse in the circle gets the ball again for the host, Sook Loggers, and that is 36-year-old Brady Woods, who has pitched 26 1/3 innings, given up 6 runs, 15 hits, struck out 38 and walked 9, had 11 strikeouts in 7 innings in playoff game, a complete game victory against Saskatoon. And Blair, as you well know, went 3 1/3 in the 2-0 triumph over the Niagara Stompers that allowed them to participate on this championship Sunday.
Brady's got to keep the ball down against this hard-hitting Galway squad. That's a great pitch, change of pace, and they asked if he went around, and they said no. I don't know how much further he needed to go for that to be a strike.
Shane Boland, Canada's national team shortstop for many years now, not to mention an 8-time Canadian champion at this event.
But Brady wants to collect ground balls today. If he mixes in the odd strikeout, that's great, but conserve some energy. Go as long as you can. Throw the rise ball like that for show, and maybe you can get a swing and a miss, but it's going to be the drop ball and the change of pace that will keep Brady Woods in this one.
Shane Boland, 2 for 13, has a home run and has managed to drive in 5 on those 2 hits this week. And they are hoping their leadoff hitter returns to national championship form of a year ago, where he hit well over 400, and he fouls this changeup down the left field line.
Yeah, Shane's been fighting it a little bit this week. Timing looks just a bit off. He's pulling balls foul that normally he would be hitting into that 5.5 hole between third and short.
One of 2 Boland brothers, staples in their home province, staples on the national team, and Brady Woods has strikeout 39 of the week as he gets Shane Boland looking. 23-year-old Jordan Pomeroy, an up-and-coming elite player. He's 23. Homered to get things rolling in the game against East Hants, Nova Scotia, the Mastodons, in last night's 7-1 victory. And I think the sky's the limit for this guy. I really do.
It's astounding when you look at Jordan Pomeroy at the plate. He looks like a skinny young kid. The bat speed that this guy generates, and I know we're into kind of the modern analytics here, but he hits the ball so hard when he makes contact. Half of his hits are for extra bases. 6 hits, but he's got the home run, he's got a couple of doubles and a triple here this week to go along with the 3 singles.
On the ground, fair and collected by Kyle Cowick, who has also found himself behind the plate in a number of games. That chore belongs to Blake Hunter today, and there are 2 away. And here's Brad Ezekiel. I have him on my sheet at 9 for 15. And as I take a look at this sheet, Blair, I'm not sure the stats that I'm looking at match what's gone on.
I see 11 for 18 as he picked up another couple of hits last night. He had a single and a triple.
And a couple of home runs. Abry with a strong play. Picked it up barehanded. And exactly what Brady Woods and Sook was hoping for against the top of the Galway lineup. A 1-2-3 beginning. You're watching the Canadian Senior Men's Softball Championship on Softball Premier TV. No score in this elimination game. The winner to face the Bear Creek Express. And the winner of that will take on the Toronto Batmen for the title. They advanced with an impressive victory over Bear Creek here last night. They're a perfect 7-0 in the tournament. And here is Kyle Cowick. He was an all-star in the qualifying round and has really acquitted himself extremely well.
Yeah, still batting .571, couple of home runs, 9 RBIs for the week for Kyle Cowick on a team where runs have been at a bit of a premium too, Peter. They ran up the score a little bit on Friday night in that final game. But other than that, they have been involved in a number of tight contests.
Sean Cleary, a couple of walks and a couple of strikeouts in the top half of the first. This hit hard, but foul by Cowick. Cleary yesterday suffered his first loss at a Canadian championship going back to the 2011 final against Kitchener, when he and the Galway Hitmen fell 4-3 in their first playoff game against Bear Creek. Good swing again by Cowick as he sends the rise ball straight back to the screen.
And Peter, I quoted that stat to a couple of players that I was chatting with in between games yesterday. And first they looked at me in utter incredulity, but then they started to think about it, and everybody agreed that, yeah, that's absolutely right. They couldn't think of a time where Cleary had lost a game over that stretch. And it is absolutely remarkable.
It most certainly is. And when his changeup, the one he just threw to Cowick for his third strikeout, is working like that, that pitch was superb. He's had a stellar career, trying to add another Canadian title to it. And facing Tyson Barkman with one out in the top of the second.
Tyson had a big game in the win over the Angels yesterday. 3 for 3 with 2 RBIs. Really helped key that win.
There's the great change again.
And Peter, I'm already seeing a lot of off-speed from Cleary and Bolin, much more than you would normally see. So I do think there is some fuel conservation going on here on the part of the Galway battery.
And comes right back to it again. Back-to-back strikeouts in the top of the second for Cleary, who is now up to 4. We saw a stunning stretch from Ty Sebastian last night, who at one point struck out 10 batters in a row, ended up with 16 in the 2-hit shutout of the Bear Creek Express. Dean Leland. Playing at second base again today, and he has really emerged as this tournament has gone on.
Not in the starting lineup originally back on Wednesday. Clint Taylor was playing second, and I think Clint went down with a nagging injury, but Dean Leland, full value for getting into the lineup and staying in with his contributions.
And Cleary's body language to me looks like he's starting to feel it. No balls, 2 strikes to Dean Leland. He's rolling now. Maybe his best inning of work in the last 2 days. Cleary and company from Newfoundland will come to bat in a scoreless elimination playoff game at Softball City in Surrey on this Labor Day weekend. Colin Walsh, who had an all-star outing during the qualifying round here to lead things off. Colin has a couple of home runs this week. And Brady Woods with a 1-2-3, bottom of the first.
Peter, up to and including last night, Colin is now 7 for 16, 438. With those 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. And on the all-tournament team, as you said, also picked up a couple of pitching wins in the qualifying round. And I think if Galway is going to get to and successfully defend this championship, they're going to need some pitching innings from Colin Walsh at some point today.
I do not disagree. It would be hard to imagine any other way for that to occur. For both of these teams to win the title, they have to win 3 straight games. And at this point of the tournament, with the number of games, and more importantly, Blair, the type of competition, that is not an easy chore. And Woods, his second strikeout of the morning. A great drop ball to get Colin Walsh.
That's where he's going to have success today. Just keep the ball down, work the corners. Don't get into the wheelhouse for this team. Chatted with Blair Ezekiel in between games yesterday, asked him about the knee, and he said it just locked up on him running between first and second in that first game that they dropped to the Bear Creek Express. He iced it after the game, re-warmed up, and had no issue with it in the second game last night.
Yeah, it did not look like he was favoring it. And Blair, a lot like brother Brad, has certainly torn it up in the same type of manner during Canadian championships. Needless to say, does not have the international resume of his brother. But at this event, it's not quite to that level, but it's comparable.
Oh, he's only, air quotes, batting .600 for the tournament right now, Peter. 9 for 15. 2 home runs, 6 RBIs for Blair. The RBI total a little bit lower perhaps than what he's seen in the past. You remarked on the 20 RBI tournament that he had here a couple of years back.
That was in 2019, and he has the first hit of the day for the Galway Hitmen here this morning in this elimination playoff game.
Blair just waved off a runner, but they're going to insist, and this honestly seems a little bit early to me to be burning through a pinch runner.
Liam Shea, a youngster, coming into the game for Galway. We've seen that. In fact, we saw him in the game yesterday on the injury to Blair Ezekiel, come in for an inning or so and play at third base. He's just 23.
And that could be a game plan, is leave Liam Shea in defensively for a couple of innings, move brother Kyle Ezekiel to first and have Liam play third. And then Blair comes back up a little bit later in the game. Just saves a little bit of wear and tear on that knee. Derek Mason is warming up in the right field bullpen, likely just preventative. They'll want him on ready alert status.
And now it's Brady Woods for the first time this morning, taking a bit of an extra peek behind home plate. the bigger the stakes, the more those men and women seem to find themselves in the hot seat. And Ryan Bolin draws a one-out walk. And for the first time today, the Galway Hitmen have a runner in scoring position with longtime Canadian national team member Jason Hill, another 8-time Canadian champion. And there is Derek Mason warming up.
And Peter should clarify something around Jason Hill. He actually has a broken finger on his hand. We thought that perhaps it was related to the injury he had suffered in New Zealand, but it actually happened at the ISC last week. It actually is a completely different hand. This one is on his right hand. Had a cast on it when he got home from the ISC, but actually took it off to come and play here this week. Mark Dwyer out again to talk with Justin Van Horn. Not sure what this is about, but he and Justin have already had 2 or 3 conversations. And
well, there was a spot very early in the game that a reaction could have had a couple of members of the Galway Hitmen rung up.
One ball, one strike.
That stare would have burned a hole in you. A ball and a strike to Jason Hill. That ball seemed to move a lot at the end. It almost got by Blake Hunter.
Just struggling to find the strike zone a little bit right now.
Interesting. Walushka playing pretty tight in center. And great running catch. Came a long way to get it, did Matthew Waugh. We've seen him in right as well as in left.
Left his natural position for probably the better part of the last decade. I initially thought, Peter, when this went up in the air, that it had a chance to fall in, but Matthew Waugh covered, I want to say, at least 25 meters to go get that ball.
He did. He came a long, long way. Kyle Ezekiel on one hop. Kevin Schellenberg. No trouble for a world champion and Pan American Games gold medalist in 2015. We have another fine game brewing on Championship Sunday at Softball City on Softball Premier TV. 2 innings have been played, just the 1 hit belonging to Galway, no runs. And here is 42-year-old Kevin Schellenberg. I know there's a couple of gentlemen very close to me who will not forget his late inning play in Ajax, Ontario. Defensively, it was as big a play as the Brad Ezekiel 2-run home run that ended up winning the game. And the other part for Kevin in that game was he was not the starter. He came in for the injured, outstanding shortstop Ian Fairman in the game and made a superb play in behind the bag at second. I can visually see it. And I know the guy beside me who just shook his head, who just happens to be the head coach of Canada's national men's team, John Stewart, just nodded, me too. That was quite a Sunday in Ajax, Ontario. 2015, a year to remember on the men's side. World Championship in Saskatoon, followed by the Pan American Games gold medal. Couldn't jam very many more people into either park at Bob Van Impe Stadium or in Ajax. Was lucky enough to be at one. Unfortunately, was not at the first one. And I still regret it, I might add.
You and I had the opposite experience. I was there in Bob Van Impe and did not get to see in person the win in Ajax.
If I had been at Bob Van Impe, I may never have really required to see another softball game ever again.
Something special happened that day.
It sure did. Canada won a world championship, a come-from-behind 5-run down situation against arch rival New Zealand. Sean Cleary was replaced by Saskatoon's very own Devin McCullough. And the Steve Mullally Show, 3 home runs, 7 runs batted in a 10-5 Canadian triumph. And it was a long time coming for the country in terms of winning a world championship.
You had to go back to 1992.
In the Philippines.
Which had been kind to Canada, both the previous championships, 92 and then all the way back to 72. Both of those won in Manila.
Matthew Waugh, Pomeroy, uses his great speed to track that down just in foul territory. As Cleary's streak of 4 consecutive strikeouts comes to an end, but he has now retired 6 straight batters. Chris Walushka struck out against Cleary in his first appearance of the day. To the winner, a date with a Bear Creek Express. And then the winner of that will play the Toronto Batmen for the Canadian Championship. That's slated for a 3 o'clock Pacific time beginning. And look out. Gentleman with a camera taking pictures in front of the Sook dugout. When you work in the media business for a long time, I've seen pucks and balls hit people with cameras quite often, and it's not overly pleasant for the person holding the camera.
Usually not. He just casually took a step back, though.
Yeah, didn't even blink over there. Cleary, a little pause. A ball and a strike to Chris Walushka. Plays a key role, Blair, in softball BC.
Chris, just a 222 average coming into today's game, Peter, but his hits seem like they've all been key and have helped to either ignite rallies or bring across a couple of runs at the right time. But also a key guy just in keeping this Sook Loggers team going.
A little extra stare from Walushka, and I don't think it was intended at anything other than the fact that he missed the pitch. Two balls and two strikes with a couple of outs in the top of the third in a must-win elimination playoff game for both to keep their Canadian title hopes alive. And Walushka lays off the rise ball, and the count to the 38-year-old runs full.
I think a purpose pitch there from Cleary and Boland. If they got Walushka to chase, great, but I think that pitch was all about setting up this one.
And the payoff on its way. And staying alive is Walushka. He had their first hit of the tournament back on Wednesday evening. It was the only game they played on Wednesday. And it was a triple. And you remarked, and I've thought more about it since you mentioned it, Blair, we have seen a lot of triples in this event.
Much more so than I recall seeing at other major events. Obviously, you see a lot of home runs in today's game, but just for whatever reason.
And he went around on what could have been ball four. Another pitcher's duel here at Softball City in Surrey, where we're still looking for this game's first run. Justin Gill to lead things off. He's 36.
Justin looking for his first hit in the tournament still, Peter, and to my mind at least, a bit of a surprise starter ahead of Peter Cavanaugh, who's batting .417 with 5 hits, a couple of RBIs, and veteran bias, I guess. Justin Gill has been a part of this team going all the way back to the inception of it.
High pop-up. Matthew Waugh, glasses on. The sun at this park when it is out, and we've seen it play havoc here. No havoc being played with the sky, although when it's in and out like that too, is unfortunately the clouds starting to roll in a little more. We've had 2 spectacular days of weather prior to today. So Gill flies out and brings back Shane Boland. He struck out his first at-bat against Brady Woods. Woods has 2 strikeouts in the game. He's up to over 40 in the tournament. Shane has 3 hits. One of them scored a run last night in the 7-1 triumph over East Hants, Nova Scotia, the Mastodons.
Hard cut by Shane Boland, but just fouled it off. And again, that speaks to, I think the timing with Shane is just a little bit off right now. Just not squaring it up.
Yeah, Shane hit .364 at last year's national championship, and an excellent changeup that he was well out in front of.
And I think, again, if Brady Woods can mix that pitch in even more, conserve some energy, and a guy like Shane who's already struggling for timing, just keep that pitch down and let him wave over top of it.
Shane, the younger of the 2 Bolands, he's 32. Ryan is 35. He'll turn 36 on the 5th of October. The Boland brothers. What a pair. What careers. And still plenty left in the tank. Certainly for the guy at home plate.
I've heard tell from Ryan that when that's the first time I've actually seen that this week. They tried to throw the ball over this 40-foot high screen that protects the fans here at Softball City, and it hit 8 feet from the top, and a bit of a groan from the rest of the crowd.
Yeah, don't try that at home.
No.
Or here. 2 balls and 2 strikes to the 3-time member of Canada's World Championship squads.
But I've heard tell that maybe Ryan will step away after the 2025 season. That's the rumor only, and hopefully I'm not perpetuating it. Maybe I am.
Probably figures to be the swan song for a few. And that World Cup right in our very own country in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan in 2025. Next year there will be a World Cup stage qualifier. 6 teams will gather, including Canada, in Prince Albert as well.
Don't know who will be involved in that pool. Maybe the Pan American group of countries, but it may not be. When you look at the women's qualifiers, those were completely jumbled from around the globe.
And interesting, as Boland draws the walk, certainly they tried to seed them the best that they can. I thought on the women's side, Canada's group was really weighted with Japan, the reigning Olympic champion, and Italy and Canada.
Yeah, there's 3 teams in the top 8 right there.
Well, 3 teams who participated in the 6-team Olympic field. And they were all in the same grouping in 3 groups of 6 teams. The World Cup qualifiers end up in what they call the World Cup finals at the WBSC, and they are now 8-team tournaments. And Canada had to qualify to make sure that they are in next summer's Women's World Cup in Italy. So they're going right back to the same place that they were this summer. Butrios. Pomeroy up the middle, and it'll make its way through. Shane Boland takes a chance, but it pays off. And there's two Galway runners in scoring position here in the bottom of the third.
Bit of a loose throw coming in from Chris Walushka, which eluded Kevin Schellenberg on the cutoff attempt. It got to Brian Avery. They weren't going to get Shane Boland coming around, but they've let Jordan Pomeroy get up into scoring position. And here now is the Galway Hitmen's first real good look at a scoring opportunity with two guys at second and third.
And heads up running by Pomeroy to take the extra base. And I am not pitching to this guy. Not a chance with a base open. No thank you. 13 runs batted in, 4 more last night with 2 more home runs.
Well, Derek Mason just came sprinting down from his spot in the right field dugout. He's pointing at first base saying, put him on, put him on. I think Mason's incredulous that Bradley Ezekle's not getting the 4-ball signal here.
Well, this is stunning. Now, if you are going to pitch to him, he's not getting anything anywhere near home plate.
But why waste 4 pitches? Why risk a pass ball or a wild pitch?
I never would.
When you don't have to throw those pitches, by rule here in Softball Canada and just about everywhere else, you can just wave at first base and away he goes.
This guy has driven in 13 this week, 28 in the last 2 Canadian championships, and will go down as one of the greatest hitters ever in Canadian softball history. And you have a base open.
And there it is. So they throw 2, and they just decide that discretion is the better part of valor.
Now, I really don't, because I value coaches so much to be critical. But that one had me scratching my head a little bit. Colin Walsh, he's more than capable with the bases loaded to take one out of here and blow the game open. Colin's 31. He's from Petty Harbor, Newfoundland. Had a stellar home Canadian last year in St. John's where he hit .524. Was an all-star through the qualifying round here. And takes a strike in the inner half from Brady Woods. And this game might come down, when we look back at it, to what happens in the rest of this half inning.
4:38 for Colin Walsh coming into today's action. Two home runs, 6 RBIs, opportunity to add to one or both of those totals.
He hit a home run against Niagara on this very date last year of September the 3rd. Well in front of the changeup. No wonder he wears the batting helmet over there. And we're going to have a little conference. Blair, can you please explain again to our terrific viewers why the umpire just raced out there?
The umpire goes with them to ensure that it is a discussion solely about signals. Therefore, it does not count as a defensive player conference. You're only allowed 1 defensive player conference per inning. If you try to have another one, it's a ball on the batter.
Abry for 1, Abry for 2. A double play to get the Sook Loggers out of a giant jam in the bottom of the 3rd. And it remains 0-0. 0, and well worth another look. The veteran, Brian Avery. A critical double play. We'll head to the 4th. Still looking for run number 1. The catcher, Blake Hunter, as the Sook Loggers dodge a big bullet. Bases were loaded. And Colin Walsh grounded into a 5 unassisted to 3 inning-ending double play. Sean Cleary having an outstanding game. Has yet to give up a hit. He has walked 2, but he struck out 7. He had a 14 strikeout performance in his first game here this week and arrived a little late.
Sean got here Thursday afternoon, did not pitch until Friday. Only 7 innings in the qualifying round, or the round robin, if you will, but that was a one-hitter. Did take the loss yesterday against the Bear Creek Express, but came right back and pitched another 7 last night in the win over Nova Scotia.
And Blair, you talked earlier, so I'll get your thoughts on it again. 2 different types of change-ups that you've noted from Sean, and the reason I brought it up, because that, to me, is the other one.
Yeah, he throws one, if you think about it this way, just kind of miles per hour, Sean throws high 70s, low 80s, so let's call it 80 for simple math. Throws a change up, the full change, where he gears it down to, let's call it 60 miles an hour. But then what I've been calling this 3/4 change from Sean is probably around 70. So it's not full speed, but it's not the full change up either. And it can be really deceiving to the batters.
I find that one usually has more of a rise action to it.
Exactly.
Hunter drives it foul. Have to have your heads up everywhere here when other games are being played, and they are. The Canadian Masters Championship going on at the same time.
And just in that one, Peter, and it was early, but the Shakespeare Falcons from Ontario were up 1-0 on the Melfort Saskatchewan 222s. Dean Holine pitching for Saskatchewan, Fred Fallings for Shakespeare.
Melfort, the reigning Masters champions. And if you don't think they're competitive, you're kidding yourself.
Well, the winner of that will take on the Coburg Force, and we would be remiss if we did not point out that the Skelton family has their teams in both of the championship games here at the Men's and Masters Championship. Mike Skelton with the Cobourg Force and Cheryl with the Toronto Batmen.
Yeah, they're having a great time here in British Columbia with their two groups. Have meant so much to the sport, the Skelton family and their contributions, so we thank them.
Peter, in between innings, we both had the same thought that Sook needs some production here from the middle of the order. The walk for Hunter, who's now been replaced by Darcy Walushka, and a big opportunity here for Brian Avery to get this Sook team and the Loggers on the board.
Darcy Walushka running for Blake Hunter. And in this case, a little different. It comes less than 2 outs in an inning where you get a courtesy runner in that spot for the catcher. And Avery can turn it loose with the best of them. And a bit of a pool cue shot for the Richmond, British Columbia product on that swing.
Peter, the other thing defensively, and we noted this when Liam Shea come on to run for Blair Ezekiel early, that they might keep him in defensively for a couple of innings. They've done exactly that. He's been at third the last couple innings. Kyle Ezekiel has moved over to first, but I would expect to see Blair come back out when it's his turn to hit. But just takes a couple of innings of pressure off of his right knee.
Blake Hunter drew the walk, and I have been so impressed with his discipline at home plate. He does not swing at very many bad pitches. And those, I guess I would better phrase, are the things that you get a better feel for when you watch these athletes game after game after game, as opposed to, sometimes watching your fine work, then you're a little in and out and you're not completely focused. You know the numbers, but as I've always said, there's nothing like being at the park and being around a sport on an everyday basis to truly know the story and appreciate the athletes and what they can do and what they do best.
When we've seen this all week with Hunter and Avery and Mason taking walks through the week. Brian Avery's got 6 walks here this week already. Not willing to go chase after bad pitches. Same thing with Blake Hunter.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons they've been amongst the best of the best for a long time, and Brian almost came out of his shoes on that swing, and that's a really good pitch. Caught the inside corner, swung on and missed, and Cleary comes right back after the walk to Hunter with strikeout number 8.
And this is vintage Sean Cleary right now. He is working corners. I thought last night, or yesterday afternoon rather, left too many pitches out over the plate. None of that right now.
Well, Sean, I wouldn't say Sean is in the upper echelon in terms of velocity.
I would agree. He throws peak 80, 81, maybe will touch 82, but not that often these days does he need to blow it by guys. And I know somewhere they had a radar gun out yesterday afternoon. I don't know if we could ever get those readings, but Sean's at his best when he's changing from 76 to 82 and then down to 60 and up to 70. And we were remarking last night, we were flipping through the Vancouver Magicians program that Conrad Margolis loaned to us, and Darren Zach featured heavily in that. Darren Zach never threw the same pitch at the same speed twice in a game.
It's funny, I had a long conversation yesterday with former national team member Dave Petkow in between one of the games, and he actually told a great story of facing Darren Zach for the first time when he was 18.
Oh, tall order.
But had been flown into this tournament in Calgary from his indigenous part of Ontario. Nobody knew anything about him. And, well, we learned a lot about him. One of truly the greatest pitchers of all time in this sport. I think that sometimes you use those statements, and I'll use those statements, but that one's fair. And there's a lot of them. Make no mistake, Stofflet.
Zach, certainly the greatest of his era.
I like how you put that. I'm gonna adopt that far more often, because I think it's so critical to mention that, because it's so hard to compare eras. They're different. And the first place I'd start with is bat technology.
Yeah, bat technology in the balls. And I would also note the conditioning of the players and also the makeup of the teams. Are there far fewer teams? Absolutely. Are there far fewer high-level players? No. But they just all happen to be on a smaller number of teams now. And running a gauntlet of 3 games against the competition here in this tournament today is a little bit different than the gauntlet you might have had to have run in the 80s. Not that the ball is any better or any worse. It's just different, and that's all.
Well, different, I think, Blair, is the key word. And we'll continue. We had that conversation, and it was a great one. Should save them sometimes for on the air rather than in the car, but another Sean Cleary strikeout, second consecutive in this inning, and you know you're at the top of your game when you get Avery and Mason with back-to-back strikeouts, and that's what makes Sean Cleary great. And it is the fact that he is a pitcher.
Yeah, that pitch was right on the edge, on the black of the plate.
When that changeup, the one that's the slower one, for simpler terms for our audience, and the location is great, he can be virtually unhittable. That's why you go 36-2-2 in your last 40 decisions of the Canadian Championship. Yesterday, by my research, his first loss at this event when they fell 4-3 to Bear Creek and he went the distance since the 2011 championship final. Now, he's not played, as you know, in every single one since, and there were 2 years where they were not played, period, thanks to COVID. Kyle Cowick.
Darcy Walushka has just been pasted to the bag at first, and for good reason. Ryan Boland, on his podcast appearances, talks about, particularly with pinch runners, if they get a little over-aggressive, that's when he's willing to make a snap throw down. Doesn't want to throw it just for the sake of throwing it. Will throw for a purpose.
Gives up a leadoff walk to Blake Hunter, but comes back with strikeouts 8, 9, and 10. A Canadian great of his generation in the circle is pitching to that moniker here this morning in a elimination playoff game at the Canadian Senior Men's Championship. The Galway hitman, Blair Ezekiel, who did not play the last half inning defensively, re-enters to hit, and he has one of the 2 base hits in the game. Sook yet to record one. Galway have 2, and they loaded the bases in the last inning only to ground into a double play. His third baseman, Brian Avery, took a high chopper, stepped on the bag, and fired it across for the double play. And that's the biggest moment so far of this game. The 2 hits have been off the bat of the gentleman at home plate, Blair Ezekiel, and Jordan Pomeroy. As that has been it. And no one has a hit off Sean Cleary on the other side, who is working on a masterpiece right now. 2 balls and a strike to Blair Ezekiel, and another base hit for number 21. He's 2 for 2. And Galway starting things exactly the way they want for catcher Ryan Boland. Batted .478 at last year's home Canadian, as I've referred to it, because it was played in St. John's, Newfoundland. And this guy is intense with a capital I. Took something off out of the zone from Brady Woods. Derek Mason continues to work. And I remember watching Derek for the first time, going all the way back to probably 2006 or 2005. And the thing I was most excited to watch him do was pitch, is Ryan Boland hit by a pitch. I'm not sure if that was unpleasantries or not.
Well, it got him on the arm guard. We'll see it. He just caught the end of it there. But Ryan doesn't take anything lightly, and I don't know if that was a pleasantry that he exchanged with Brady Woods or something else. But it's drawn a mound visit from the skipper.
And will we see Derek Mason? Is it time? Well, here's the interesting thing, and I'm not sure it plays as big a factor in this sport as another sport where you throw the ball overhand, but you do have a lefty-lefty scenario here with Jason Hill coming up and Woods being left-handed, but I just saw the call go out. Derek Mason will be the pitcher when we come back in a 0-0 tie in the first of 3 games on Championship Sunday of the Canadian Senior Men's Softball Championship. Derek Mason enters the game. He pitched 25 innings last weekend to help his team win the BC Provincial Championship.
Not quite that many innings here this week, 12.1. He's appeared in 5 of the 7 games, though, Peter. Just 1 win, 1 save. Given up 7 hits in those 12 innings, 3 earned runs, 13 strikeouts over the 12 innings, 1.7 ERA.
And his first pitch gets away from catcher Blake Hunter. And now there are 2 runners in scoring position here in the bottom of the 4th.
The other defensive switch for the Loggers, Ryan Shields, moves out to right. Tyson Barkman will effectively become the designated player, and he will very shortly, I would assume, Peter, emerge from the dugout and go down the right field line to begin throwing.
Jason Hill, who is not 100% healthy. Dealing with a broken digit, and Blake Hunter, great hustle. But Blair Ezekiel not going anywhere, off the bag at third. No one out. You would not want to.
No, and that's the disadvantage where they burned Liam Shea too early on his first base hit. This is where you would love to have Liam Shea running for Blair right now. Even a medium depth fly ball, he's not going to score.
The 2-ball pitch from Mason, who comes in and is struggling a little to find the strike zone.
Well, there goes Tyson Barkman down the line. The other guy they've got available is Aaron Emery, who came in the other night and did a good job, but that was against the second Newfoundland team, Physio. You may not want to throw him into this particular fire.
That'd be a tough spot. And Mason does find the zone. Looked like he took a little something off just in order to do that.
Oh, he guided that ball right in. He was aiming it.
You have to be careful aiming with anyone that you face in this lineup. Can be 3-0 very quickly. And he just asked the umpire, what?
Yeah, you think he'd like to know where that missed. Didn't look like Hunter had to reach outside for it, so I'm going to guess it would miss high.
And the third, Ezekiel brother, Kyle. The bases are loaded. There is no one out. In the bottom of the 4th in an elimination game. To the winner, a matchup with the Bear Creek Express. The Toronto Batmen are awaiting. They have already advanced with their win last night over Bear Creek to this afternoon's championship final, slated as of right now for 3 o'clock. And I say slated because there hasn't exactly been a lot of games that have necessarily started exactly with what the schedule might indicate.
Well, this one, we're only in the bottom of the 4th inning, and we've been at this for almost an hour and a half.
Considering there's only a couple of hits in the game, it is not flown by.
No, but a lot of deep counts.
Two balls and a strike to Kyle Ezekiel, and this is going to fall in. Big wide turn by Ryan Boland, who might have hurt himself a little bit trying to put on the brakes.
Yeah, he is bent over and was holding on to that right knee a little bit.
Ooh, he's uncomfortable.
Yeah, he's going to flex that and go for a walk, but I don't see any bones sticking out, so I think Ryan Boland will be staying in the game.
Are you suggesting that he's a bit of a warrior type?
He's tough. He's flexing the right ankle. You can just see it on the right side of your frame there in that shot.
Kyle Ezekiel drives in the first Galway run on his bloop single the opposite way into right field, and the bases remain loaded for Justin Gill. Sook must limit the damage. Even, I think, Blair, one more run with the way that Mr. Cleary is pitching in this game could put them in some real jeopardy. Certainly two more.
Conversely, for Galway, you want this insurance run because you look through that order for the Loggers. One mistake, one swing, and it becomes a tie game. When it's a 2-run differential, yeah, you can afford that one mistake.
The number 3 for me is always a big one. 2, you put someone on and someone hits a shot and you're even. If you can get to 3, especially with Sean Cleary looking the best that he's looked so far this week, that would be a tall order. Always possible with the type of batters that Sook has in their order. But they don't have a hit yet, let alone a run or 3.
And Derek Mason is really struggling to find the strike zone with any type of consistency right now. He warmed up a lot, and I'm a little surprised, Peter, that he hasn't been able to be a little bit more consistent here.
Tyson Barkman, who's seen a decent amount of action in his own right. And remember, in the case of Derek, this is not what he does on a regular basis.
Very true. He is more of a hitter these days, but still does this enough.
Gill stuck out the bat, and a double play.
Jason Hill caught wandering off of second base. Chris Walushka came in and made the catch on the run. Jason Hill was about 8 or 9 steps off the bag and just cannot get back to the base. It was even more than 8 or 9 steps. He's 8 or 9 meters off the bag.
Blair, uncharacteristic on a couple of fronts. Even in the case of Ryan Boland. Now, granted, he's struggling a little bit. Just tweaked the knee. But he was a couple of steps up the line, not in a position where you're generally taught in that case to stand at the bag, and if it drops, you walk in anyway.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised there. That ball, I mean, wasn't hit hard, but it was hardly a dying quail that was going to just get over the bag. Chris Walushka is a very, very capable center fielder, and he closed that gap very quickly.
And the word I was looking for earlier about how he plays center field is shallow,
yes,
which allowed him to get to that ball. And I think in the case of the two great veterans, they just thought there would be no way anyone would track that down. And now he's tracked another one down. They score one, but they had the bases loaded with nobody out. And a double play. And Galway would have to feel like that's a bit of a missed opportunity as they take the field coming up in inning number 5. Tyson Barkman, the batter. He has been warming up. He's in the designated player position. And if you are the Sook Loggers, you are delighted with how the last inning ending, even though you gave up the first run of the game.
Some self-induced errors by the Galway hitmen. And as you said, Peter, something you don't often see from these guys. Just that's not a play you associate with those guys. Sook, as he said, has to be thrilled they only gave up one. And they're still in that territory now where somebody can run into one and tie the game.
Gave up one. But against this group, when they have the bases loaded and there's no one out and they're about to get to the heart of their order, that is a potentially massive turning point. Now, the next order of business is you need to find your way at home plate against a guy who's given up nothing and has struck out 10. Working on a no-no right now. And just waved his finger in many ways at Tyson Barkman to say, not you to break it up with strikeout number 11.
And that's the second time this game, Peter, that he's struck out 4 in a row.
Well, he's at his best, as you would expect someone with his resume experience.
Well, we talk a lot and we cover Sean Cleary a lot throughout the course of the summer. If you're going to get to Sean, you need to get to him early. And I'll go back all the way to the first inning. A leadoff walk, a 2-out walk, your 5-batter at the plate, and that squandered opportunity there for Sook. They haven't had a sniff since.
They have not. This is very reminiscent of the type of performance we saw from Ty Sebastian last night. He struck out 10 in a row in that, what I like to call, semi-final game, which isn't as accurate as it could be, because you would actually refer to the next game as a semi-final game to get to a final, but semi-final in the sense that the winner of that game
went to the final.
The final.
Winner's bracket final, another way to think of it.
That's really a far more correct term. 1-0 for Cleary and company is to retain the title that they've won in the last 3 Canadian championships in 8 of 9. They have to run the table today and win 3 in a row. And they're capable, very capable. But I don't feel like they've hit their stride yet this weekend. Just been little things that normally don't occur for this group. But if this guy continues to be in this groove,
and they may just ride him as long as he can go, too. I've seen Sean do it. I go back to the 2016 and was just talking off air with Conrad Margolis about an all Newfoundland final back in 2016. And that day, Sean pitched 22 innings. I think one of those games went extra innings. And Galway added or extended their streak at the time.
there's a changeup. That's the one that's probably closer to 70 than it would be to 62 or 63. On the radar gun to Kevin Schellenberg, who has gone deep in this tournament, not noted as that type of hitter in his excellent career. Fabulous fielder. Always been the case. Did play at the Canadian Championship last year. And by my findings, had not played in one prior to that since 2011.
I was quite surprised by that, too.
And again, when I say my findings this week, and I don't want anyone to be offended, tracking history of championships is not as easy as you would think it would be. Ball and 2 strikes. Sean Cleary, world class for a long time. And that's the level he's pitching at here in this first of 3 playoff games on Championship Sunday. Softball City. A 1-0 Galway lead. 1 run on 4 hits. And Sean Cleary has been his dominant self in this game. He struck out 6 in a row.
11 of the last 12.
And has 14 in the game and has yet to surrender a hit. Derek Mason came on in relief of Brady Woods in the last inning. There's Pomeroy, who has one of those 4 Galway hits today, the 23-year-old youngster. Do you know the proper pronunciation of his hometown? He's
from Placentia, is he not?
Placentia, yes.
Which I think, if you count the greater urban Placentia area, also includes Freshwater, the home of Steve Mullally, I believe.
Thanks, bye.
Yes, bye.
A squibber to Schellenberg. Made that look routine, and it wasn't.
That could have easily just taken a left turn right as it arrived at his glove. Those little multi-hoppers.
Had a lot of spin on it. 6-3. Brad Ezekiel intentionally walked to load the bases. Took a couple pitches to get there, because you do have the option to put somebody on in this sport without throwing a pitch. Galway has missed 2 opportunities to really take command on the scoreboard, including the last inning where they did score the game's first run, courtesy of a Kyle Ezekiel RBI base hit to right field. But that's the only run they scored, and they loaded the bases still after that hit. And a double play by Chris Walushka as Jason Hill was caught off the bag at second. And another walk for Brad Ezekiel, who has 13 runs batted in and 5 home runs this week. Had 7 home runs and 15 runs batted in Newfoundland at last year's Canadian. And since 2011, as I total it up quickly in my head, has 112 runs batted in as Walsh.
What an outstanding play by Brian Avery, who went up the ladder to get this high hopper and then fires a seed to second. Bang, bang play at second. What a heads-up play to get the lead runner.
Brian is such a fine player. That's why he's been a national team member for so long. And again, and we've used this about a number of players, Blair, so versatile.
Well, we've talked about third base being open on the national team right now. Maybe the opening is actually in right field, Peter, because it could be this guy filling the spot at third base.
As you call one event, at least in my case, I'm already thinking ahead to Prince Albert. Backpedaling is Leland. And no collision. At least not one that was large enough to force this out of Dean Leland's glove. It remains 1-0 in this elimination playoff game on Championship Sunday on Premier Softball TV. Top of the order and the top of the 6th inning in a 1-0 Galway Hitman advantage. There are only 4 teams remaining in contention for the title. Toronto has already earned its way into the final game. Bear Creek awaits the winner next of these 2 teams. And Blair, this is not the only Canadian championship going on in this great facility.
There were 3 Masters teams that came into play today, a semifinal and then the final.
Off the end of the bat, Cleary threw a rope over there.
Let's watch this defensive web gem from Sean Cleary. Great play by Sean. Not many pitchers, Peter, will make that play in this tournament. We saw a couple of spiked throws last night from the pitcher defensively. That is a gem.
I may be as impressed with that as any strikeout today. That was a throw that not only was that it got there, it was how it got there, Blair.
Yeah, had something zip.
Riley Mannion had 2 plays in a row for Bear Creek where he one-hopped the first baseman, Jeff Lyons. That was, as you called it earlier, a seed that he threw over. And Blair Ezekiel made a good play on it, too. It was a little wide. It wasn't as accurate as it could have been. But it had a lot of zip on it, that is for sure. Chris Walushka, the 39-year-old, he'll turn 40 on the 20th of December. Had a good week, both at the plate. Has not hit as well later in the tournament as he did earlier. Sook lost its first 3 games. They ran the gauntlet against Toronto and Bear Creek and Grand Prairie early and could have been 3-0, frankly. But then won their last 2 in the round robin to grab the 4th and final playoff spot in their pool and ran off 2 playoff triumphs, shutout triumphs yesterday to make their way into Canada softball Final Four territory. As the wind picking up again at Softball City.
Peter, 3 of the 4 teams in the Final Four coming out of that black pool. Galway, the only survivor from the red pool.
Out of the strike zone. Walushka struck out on a high rise. He also struck out back in the first. Cleary has 13 in the game, and 11 of the last 13 have been retired in that manner. And here's the payoff.
Cleary very unhappy with what he thought was strike 3 inside. He had some words for home plate umpire Justin Van Horn. And Peter, just before we get started with Blake Hunter, through 5 complete, Shakespeare Falcons leading the Melfort 222s 3-1. Still Fred Fallings and Dean Holine in that one.
Excellent drop ball in on the hands of Hunter. You would think this would be as good an opportunity, considering where they are in their lineup, for Sook to strike. They've yet to record a hit. Walushka represents their 3rd base runner. They've all come on walks.
This is the time for Sook, Peter. 3, 4, 5 in their order with a guy aboard. It's likely do or don't for the Loggers here right now.
No balls and 2 strikes to a great hitter and Blake Hunter. And Cleary. Good work by Ryan Boland behind home plate to make sure that didn't end up at the screen.
Peter, want to give a shout out to Canada's U18 team down in Columbia. They are all together and tuned in and watching, and we want to wish you the best of luck at the U18 World Cup qualifier this week in Columbia. We will be watching you over the next few days.
We most certainly will. Good luck, young men. And a terrific rise ball gets Blake Hunter without number 2 of this top of the 6th inning. And here's another great matchup. Cleary versus Abry. Now, Chris Walushka can run. Would you give any consideration on the right count?
Maybe. If you could guess on a changeup.
Well, it's not like the guy behind the plate isn't more than capable of throwing you out.
I agree, but if you could somehow time it to a changeup, you certainly increase the odds in your favor.
On the right count, I think I'd give it a go. Because then I know I still have 4, 5, and 6 to start the 7th. But I also don't want to take the bat out of this guy's hand. So in continuing to process it, that's difficult. I'd never do it in this count.
No.
Too favorable for the hitter. At 1-1 or 1-2, then I'd probably think more about it. And now you're likely taking all the way, or do you give this guy a green light?
I'm taking. Because I don't think Sean is going to throw one down the middle here. Brian knows that as well. Unless Sean somehow makes a mistake. But I don't expect that.
Drama brewing again, just the way we like it.
I mean, that was up and in on the inside corner. If Brian goes after that, he just pops that up on the infield.
Gets a little extra encouragement from shortstop Shane Boland, who paced towards him and now settles back into his shortstop position. A 3-1 pitch to national team member Brian Abry. And he had a good whack at it.
Still up and out, though. That pitch was borderline strike at best.
Might have been ball 4. Full count. Now the runner's on the move for sure. And he can run. In Chris Walushka, the center fielder.
The outfielders are all deep. They're all a step or two back. Well, now Brad Ezekiel just took a couple in, but they're deep.
Well, you don't want a ball to get over your head in this spot. And a changeup. I'm not sure any of us saw that one coming.
That was audacious.
Not only that, it was really good. We'll go to the bottom of the 6th. It remains 1-0 for the 3-time reigning champion, Galway hit. Catcher Ryan Boland. 1-0 behind the pitching of star right-hander Sean Cleary, who has yet to give up a hit and has struck out 15 in the air for Dean Leland, and he'll take care of that with relative ease, and there's one down. The Bear Creek Express to face the winner next. And then it's the championship affair. The Toronto Batmen advanced with a win last night over Bear Creek. We've had some big strikeout performances. Justin Schofield as Jason Hill. Same spot.
Derek Mason is grinning like the Cheshire Cat right now at Jason Hill. Opportunity here, Peter, to tie a record. 3 pitches to get 3 outs.
Yeah, that one can never be broken. If it is, let me know, by the way. You'll probably be there to see it if it happens.
I almost saw it in the U23 where a batter was called out for a time violation or something, and almost saw a pitcher get 3 outs with 2 pitches.
It technically can happen.
Yeah,
and I'm sure it has, because even
somewhere.
It'd be hard, though. Somewhere it has happened for that very reason that you talked about. Schellenberg took a bit of a high hop on him. No trouble for Kevin. And the host, Sook Loggers, down to their last at-bat. Maybe not only in the game, but in the tournament. But they're only 1 down, trying to derail the defending champions from winning again here at Softball City. The Sook Loggers have yet to record a hit. They need a run to keep their Canadian Championship hopes alive. The Bear Creek Express warming up behind the center field fence. A chilly day. Different weather pattern blown in overnight after 2 just sensational Surrey days. Here are the last 2 on this long weekend.
Yesterday was just a stellar day for ball. It was warm, but not uncomfortably warm. High skies, bright sunshine all the way around. I thought this morning this was going to be a great day for the players, but it's cooled by a couple of degrees here already.
Yeah, it's not a warm wind. Mason with a good twist. So he fouls it back off Cleary. Has struck out 15. He's allowed 3 walks. That's it. Throwing a masterpiece. but still needs a couple of strokes of the paintbrush to complete it. Change up. Mason hits it pretty well, but an easy out for center fielder Brad Ezekiel. And isn't it interesting, Kyle, in terms of where he fits on the batting chain in the Ezekiel family, he is the gentleman that's driven in the game's only run today.
Kyle is a very good hitter in his own right. If his name is O'Leary instead of Ezekiel, we talk about him for his hitting exploits. The natural comparison is to two guys who will likely be going into Halls of Fame. That's a hard standard to live up to. The changeup from Sean Cleary has been stellar today. And the one to Mason, out on his front foot, was able to make decent contact with it, but nowhere near enough to get it out of here.
Yeah, couldn't get through it to drive it the way you would want to, and that.
They've really picked apart the corners today. They being Sean Cleary and Ryan Boland. They've been working inside, outside. I don't think he's left a single ball over the plate today.
This is Sean Cleary at his best. That's fair, isn't it, Blair?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hit high. Is it deep enough? No, it isn't.
Little exaggeration there from Bradley Ezekiel. He caught that 2 steps in front of the fence. If there was a warning track, he would have been onto it. But this is not a stolen home run.
The best hit ball of the day by Kyle Cowick, a qualifying round all-star this week. That had a chance.
Yeah, it was close. That's probably the hardest, well, I don't think probably, it is the hardest hit ball of the afternoon by the Sook Loggers.
So Tyson Barkman trying to keep his team alive.
Cleary still here in the bottom or the top of the 7th inning. The hard look in.
Down to their last out. Gets the call on the other side of home plate, the inner part, to even the count at 1-1. It has been a sensational pitching performance by one of the greats of his generation, Sean Cleary. Certainly the country's best for a long time, and ooh, that took a real bite out of the hand, and it's the catching hand.
Yeah, he got the foul tip right into the fingers. That's a stinger, and if it is sending Ryan Boland down to the training table, it is more than just a bite.
Well, I don't want to see a camera on what's going to happen next over there.
No. Well, maybe it was just a new glove, possibly? No, that's more than that. Peter, while we've got a bit of a break as Ryan Boland is trying to get his fingers back in order, and don't look if you're squeamish.
I knew it was coming.
In the Masters division, through 6 complete, Shakespeare Falcons leading your Melfort 222s now 3-2. Pitching change, Greg Guy now in for the Shakespeare Falcons. And there were no bones sticking out, so Ryan Boland is back behind the plate. But I'll tell you something, you dislocate a finger and get it put back in, I'm not going back in the ball game.
Well, he is not
human.
Special player. They call him Captain Canada, and for good reason. So they're a strike away. Sean Cleary has no hit the Sook Loggers with a 16 strikeout performance. He may have lost for the first time at a Canadian championship yesterday. We just saw why he's now 37-2-2 in this tournament since the year 2011.
That is a statement game from Sean Cleary that he is not going to be taken out of this tournament without a fight. A very, very impressive performance against a deep Sook Loggers lineup.
Well, and congratulations to the host team here. Got off to an 0-3 beginning. Our next game will feature the Galway Hitmen, who are now in the final three, and they're the reigning three-time champions against the Bear Creek Express without superstar center fielder, we think, Quentin Bruce, who separated his shoulder on a Kyle Ezekiel home run. And Kyle supplied the one run that Sean Cleary needed. Galway alive and well, but still with plenty of work to do. We'll be back with that game in about 20 to 30 minutes time here at Softball City.
For the latest in softball innovation, the website where you can experience the best tournaments in the Americas. Live games, news, tournaments, and much, much more. The best quality live softball, on demand so you can watch when you want. Become a Premier member now. Softball Premier TV.